the sheet which we will be discussing the course details, which we will be discussing in our course. All right, so this is the course details, a brief view of the course details which we will be discussing in our class. So as you can see that today we'll be discussing just the basics, just the introduction to the Selenium with C Sharp, how you can implement Selenium with C Sharp, and just the basic topics that what is the brief history of Selenium, and what is the introduction to C Sharp, and how you can configure basic DLLs and the concept of the DLL. I'll just tell you today. Okay, just the basic concepts we'll be discussing in the first class, and then as you can see in this sheet, we will be discussing all these topics. That is, tomorrow we will move forward towards the concepts of the OOPS. Then we'll also discuss the interfaces, and then after that we will move towards Selenium, that is how to identify the objects within Selenium. Alright, so these are all the topics of Firefox profiling. When do you need the XPath? What is XPath and all? Calculating the XPath. Alright, and then customizing different XPath. If you have a customized XPath, then how you can create them. Then concept of list, drop down handling, select class, alert management, web tables. So these all topics you can just have a look at it, and we'll just discuss all these topics in our class. And how to handle the Excel files as well in C Sharp, we'll discuss that also. And then after that we will move towards the testing framework that we will implement with the help of NUnit. Okay, and then after that we will be building a framework in the class. Alright. Yes.
So we'll be covering the Jenkins with that as well.
Yes, we will be covering Jenkins, we will be covering Grid as well. Alright. Okay, yeah.
Sure.
Alright, so any doubts in this Excel sheet? Any doubts you want to ask?
No, actually, I tried the first part, Day1 part. I downloaded the
Yeah.
CSharp for Selenium, and in this added as a reference. But
Alright.
I'm not able to launch the application with the driver Internet IE. So then, do I have to download that IE driver exe file?
Yes. For the IE and the Chrome, you have to download the exe files.
Okay. So yeah.
Alright, we will be discussing that also. I'll just tell you in the class how you can open the Firefox, the 3 different browsers.
Great.
Yeah. So let us start now. Then first of all, I will talk about the brief history of Selenium, that how it evolved and where it is going right now. Alright, so as we all know that if we talk about the history, there are 3 components of Selenium which comes up. We have 3 components. Okay, the first one is RC. We have Selenium RC. Then there is IDE, the IDE version of the Selenium, and then comes the grid. Okay, so these are the 3 components when we generally talk about the brief history of Selenium, which comes up in Selenium, the 3 components of Selenium. Alright, so first of all, talking about IDE. What is IDE? So IDE is still used. When talking about the IDE, it is a simple tool, but IDE only works on Mozilla. It only works on the Firefox browser and does not support any other browser. Alright, and then it is a record and run tool. It is a record and run tool, but a very easy tool. You can just learn about it. A record and run tool, I mean to say that as we all know that every automation tool has record and run feature, which looks good. But
You're talking about RC or you're talking about IDE?
I am talking about IDE. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing.
Okay, so here I have written below the IDE. I'm talking about IDE component right now.
Okay.
Okay. So any doubt?
No, no.
All right. So I was telling you that IDE only works on the Firefox browser. It does not support any other browser. But IDE is a very simple tool. You can easily learn IDE. And secondly, second feature of IDE is it is a record and run tool. By record and run, as we all know that every automation tool has a record and run feature. But it is not practical because dynamic things you cannot just record and run. For example, if you take the example of the yahoo.com website, every day the contents of the Yahoo keeps on changing dynamically. You do not have a control over it, right? Or if you take any other example, that is the news website or the sports website. So every day the websites, so as you all know that each and every website is dynamic. So you cannot just record and run everything. All right, so that comes with IDE. And then thirdly, next feature of IDE is that you cannot generate reports in IDE. The reports cannot be generated in IDE. Okay, but IDE will help you automate your test as well, but it is not a professional tool. If you have 1,000 test cases, then you cannot just use IDE. But if you have a small kind of a project, a little smaller one, then no need to, then you can just implement IDE in that framework. Alright, so and in IDE there is no need of learning any programming language as well. Alright, so in order to remove all these defects and to work on multiple browsers, we switch to RC. So RC, as I told you, that it works on multiple browsers. It supports multiple browsers. Alright, and then secondly, it generates HTML as well as the Excel reports, XLS reports. But you have to learn programming language for it to learn, like C#, Java, Ruby, Python, Perl. You have to learn any programming language in order to learn RC. You cannot just implement it directly in your frameworks. Okay, so this was a little challenge for the testers as well, and it is still a challenge that we have to learn the programming language in order to implement RC in our frameworks. Right, so that comes with RC, and then after that we switch to grid. So grid helps you to run the test cases parallelly. It helps in the parallel execution of the test
I'm a bit,
cases.
sorry,
Yes,
sorry.
yes,
I'm a bit confused because I have learned Selenium Java with
yes,
yeah. So C is the one I worked in Selenium before 2 years before.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, but RC is the one which is a record and playback thing, right? Where it automatically you can any language you can select the code is generated directly there. Then IDE is the one which is integrated development environment.
environment, yes, yes,
Yeah, like Eclipse or Visual Studio or anything. So
yeah.
basically, if you don't record, you have to develop with a WebDriver, Selenium, that is WebDriver code, Selenium WebDriver code. So basically, you can do multiple browser, but RC is the one which is Mozilla, correct? So I'm a bit confused. Like,
No, no, you are wrong, I think. IDE only works on Mozilla and RC supports multiple browsers.
C is not where see where we develop in the Eclipse like Visual Studio. It's
Yes.
IDE. It's IDE, right?
Yeah, yeah, that is the integrated development. Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, please go ahead. That's in my mind.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so I was telling you about the grid, that grid, it helps you to run the test cases parallelly. All right. So like you must be make you over now what you have done. Like suppose in grid we have a central hub.
Okay.
We have a central hub with us, and to that hub multiple nodes would be connected. So with the help of grid we will be executing test cases parallelly at the same time,
Okay. So I'm
right?
not aware of grid.
Okay. So in grid, there is a central hub. You distribute the test cases among different nodes. By different nodes, I mean different machines. You will be distributing the test cases to the different machines, and with the help of the grid, we will be executing all these test cases that are placed on different machines at the same time. And
Okay.
then so that means we will be running the test cases parallelly at the same time, right? So what happens, what is the basic usage of the grid? The You can say that it saves much of your time, right? You will time saving would be there when you will be implementing with grid. That is, you can
Sure.
execute parallel execution. We do parallel execution with grid.
Okay.
Okay, so that is a grid. And then
So we
like
will cover grid in detail later.
yes, we will be covering grid. We will be running our test cases with grid as well in the framework.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then so this was grid, and then with RC there were certain drawbacks. Like in
Okay.
RC, for example, there used to be an RC server. There used to be our RC server which used to start from the command prompt. Many a times the server never used to start, or you have to shut down. You don't have to shut. You didn't shut down properly. Then there was a problem with starting again the RC server. You have to log off out of your machine and then log in again. So these were the basic drawbacks which was generally there with RC. So many a time people couldn't do a lot of things with RC.
Okay.
All right. So in order to overcome this, we after that we moved to the next component, that is the web driver.
Okay.
Okay, so then came the web driver in the market. So with the web driver, you can do a lot of things, the same things which you can do with RC. That is, it also supports multiple browsers. Like we all
Okay.
know that it supports multiple browsers. Then reports can also be generated, both the HTML and the Excel reports, right? And a lot of things, a lot of new features are also there which we will be discussing in our course. Okay,
Okay.
right? That is the same functionality which RC does, it is there with the WebDriver as well. Plus a lot more new features which are there with the WebDriver, which we will be discussing in our course. Okay, so then in order to overcome the drawbacks of RC, WebDriver came, which is also known as the WebDriver 2. That is
Okay.
WebDriver 2 version 2.0. Okay, and then RC is still there. RC is still the same. People still use IDE and a grid in order to implement their frameworks. We have a project. If you have a project of 1 to 2 pages, then you can simply use IDE. All right. So we have IDE as well, and then grid is also the same. But grid has been converted to grid 2. Sorry, grid 2. Okay, which supports a WebDriver as well. Plus
Okay.
the basic functionality which it performs, that is the parallel
Yes.
execution, is still the same, right? So this was a brief introduction to the history of Selenium. All right. So now let us just start with the course. So now how to start? As I have told you that these are the course details which we will be discussing in our classes, right? So like as of now, I am just assuming that you know the basic concepts of the programming language, right? The
Yes.
classes, the functions, loops, arrays,
Yes.
yeah. So our major focus will be discussing will be to cover the C sharp, how to implement Selenium with C sharp, right? And then we'll also see the web driver, the frameworks, Jenkins and Grid and all everything in our course.
Oh,
All right. So in order to learn C sharp, then you must have the basic concepts of the OOPs. You must know the basic concepts of the OOPs, right? That is the classes and all constructors, static and non-static. So we will be discussing that also in our class. I'm just assuming that you know
okay.
the functions and all everything, the
Yeah, you
variables.
can
Yes.
go with the regular class and you get the concept of it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. Okay, so let us start with it. So firstly, I'll just open Visual Studio. So you have installed Visual Studio on your system?
No, not in my system.
All right, so you can just install Visual Studio, or else I can just tell you how to, like you go to Microsoft.com.
So 30 days I can install the 30 days.
Sorry?
30 days trial version.
Yeah, trial version also you can install. VisualStudio.com it is. Yeah, so you go to visualstudio.com and out here you go to downloads menu, all downloads. Alright, so over here you can see that Visual Studio downloads. From here you can just download the Visual Studio. That is, you can download.
Okay.
Alright, Visual Studio 2015. And from here, just make sure that you select the ISO version. In order to download it, you just select the ISO version and then click on the download button. So it will give you will just you can just download the uh, setup for the Visual Studio and then
Okay.
install
Is that
it.
community 2015 or professional?
Yes, yes, yes. Community 2015.
I have it in my office machine, so that's where I can.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. So, like this is the Visual Studio, the first page of the Visual Studio, which comes up when you open the Visual Studio, right? So, like as we start with the course, so like as I told you that starting with the concepts of OOPs, like as you can see, we will be starting first of all. We'll start with the concepts of the OOPs because people generally go wrong over here. Because if you want to learn Selenium, you must know the concepts of OOPs. Now, why there is a need to learn the concepts of OOPs? It is because if we go to the official website of the Selenium as well, that is seleniumhq.org, the first line says Selenium automates browsers. That is, you can only automate web-based applications, but not desktop-based applications with Selenium. Right, so here it is, and then we go to the download menu, and over here you can see the documentation for the C sharp as well. You can just have a look at it. That is, for corresponding to the C sharp, we have the API docs with us. So these are all the topics which are there inside the C sharp documentation. So as you know that in order to understand this documentation, you must know the concepts of the OOPs. That is, what are interfaces, class, exception, interfaces and all everything. In order to understand this documentation also, you must have the basic knowledge of hoops, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so in order to understand this, so we'll be just discussing the basics only, the basics which will be required by us in order to understand any language. That is the static and non-static, how to create the objects and the constructor interfaces, just the basic topics. All right, so as we all know that it is completely an OOPS architecture. This documentation is completely an OOPS architecture. All right, so let us start with it. So in the Visual Studio, what I will do, I will create a new project. Say I'll add a console application in my project. That is say, yeah, so that is say I add a sample project, sample. All right, so this is your project that you have created, sample project that comes up when you create a project. So these are the four files that comes by default when you create any project: the properties, references, app.config file and program.cs class file. I'll tell you everything what this file contains. All right, so in the references folder, in the references, you generally add the basic DLLs into your project. The DLLs which you want to configure in your project, you just add them into this references folder. Alright, and then app.config is a file which contains the configuration of your system, the configuration of the project. Alright, and
okay.
then this is a class file which contains the main method. Okay,
Okay.
so like as you must be knowing that we declare a variable. That is how, if say suppose I declare a variable int x is equal to say 5. Uh-oh. Okay, so you declare a variable, and then similarly if you want to declare a string variable, then we declare a string variable, say string s is equal to say hello. Okay, and then we know, then I assume that you know the for loops and if statements and functions. Okay, so these are just the general topics that that we will be implementing in any framework. That is, we will be doing the if
Okay.
statement, right? So I assume that you just know that. Now if you want to print anything in C sharp, if you want to print, then you have a statement that is, then you write console dot write line, and inside it you give anything that you want to print. So suppose I print Selenium. Okay, so this is what you write in order to print something, that is console.writeLine. So now if you want to run this code, how you run this code, you have a start button out here, you simply click on it. So here you saw that a black window did come, but it just vanished away very fast. Why did it happen? It is because we have to write, in order to see the output of any code, we at the end we have to write console dot read key. So what is the meaning, what why we write console dot read key? It is because in order to read the output, in order to freeze the screen, we write console dot read key, so that the output is visible to us, to any person. So now if I run my code again, so now you see that the screen has not gone. The screen is still there. The console output window is still there, and it prints Selenium. Okay, so in order to see the output, in order to freeze the screen, we write console dot read key at the end. You have to write console dot read key at the end in every main function in order to read that output. Okay, so like as I told you that we have console.writeLine in order to print something, and the shortcut for it is you write CW and press double tab key. Alright, so with that console.writeLine would come. Okay, and then I will tell you what is this static word as well. Just in the course details, as you can see that this is also covered in our course. All right, so with the coming classes we will be discussing each and everything. What is a namespace, what is static, what is class, what is main function, void, everything we will be discussing, right? Okay, so like as you can see that the class file is generated. Now in any project you can create any number of files into your project. There can be many class files which can be there inside any project. Okay, but in practical world, what happens is that when you compile any C# program, you will be creating an assembly. Assembly is a file that contains the compiled code. Okay, so there are two kind of assemblies. The executable files have the exe file extension. So all the programs are compiled as executables. Those are the assemblies that you can execute. Like if suppose if I go to the path of this project of my project, if I open it in my solution explorer, so if you go to bin debug, so here you can see that the exe file has been created of our project, sample project.exe file. So this is one assembly. Like as I just told you that there are two kinds of assemblies, the executable one and the DLL one, that I'll just tell you right now. Okay, so executable files have the exe extension, and so these are the assemblies that you can execute. If I close my project, and now if I open this, you can see, so here you see that the executable, it just prints the output, the what you have done in your project, it just prints that, it executes the code.
So any framework that we can take the exe file and
Then run it,
just
click on it, and then it will be executable.
okay.
Alright, so exe files are executable, and then second one is the, like as I told you that there are also the library assemblies which have the DLL extension, which is referred to as the class library, because they contain the classes that you can use in your program. And as you will see shortly, namespaces also play a big role in the frameworks. When we will be using them, I'll just tell you what is the namespace and how they are used. Okay, so DLL files, the first one is the files that have the exe extension, which are executable, and the next one, the second one, are the DLL files, that is the class library, which contains many classes inside it, which you can use them in your program. So the basic difference between the exe and the DLL file is that in exe extension, in the exe, the application can be executed, right?
Okay.
And in the DLL, the application cannot be executed. You cannot execute them directly. All right. And then in the exe files, it contains the main method, but the DLL files does not contain the main method.
Okay.
All right, say I'll just show you that one also. I'll open the Visual Studio and say suppose I create a new project and I'll add a class library into my project. I'll add a class library. All right, so
Sorry.
yes,
Is it recording? This program
yes, this is recording. I'm recording this program. Yeah. So now as you can see that I created the class library project. This is my class library project. All right, so in that also we have three files. So this is the properties file, then there is the references folder, and this one is the class file. So as I told you that in the class library project there is no main function, so you can see as well over here.
Yes.
Okay, so it is just a class. This is just the class 1, the class1.cs class file that we have inside the class library project, and it does not contain the main function inside it. And if I go to the path of this project, I go to bin debug. Alright, so since we haven't done anything inside this, so it is not displaying us the DLL file. Okay, there is only one class1.cs file that does not contain anything. So I was telling you that the two basic differences between the exe and the DLL files. You got it?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
So exe file we can execute
Yes.
yeah, just application we can execute the application.
Yes.
In DLL files it just contain the class library for reference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And exe file contains a main method where DLL files does not
Does
contain
not.
main method.
Yes, yes. These are the two main difference between the DLL and the exe files. Okay. Um, all right. So, like today was just the introductory class, so we'll continue tomorrow then. Just a brief introduction that I just gave you to